What do you do when the people you trusted to run your business start hiding the truth right under your nose? Wesley Elridge stood in the back lot of his sixth warehouse, zipping up a faded gray hoodie and adjusting the fake beard that clung tightly to his jaw. A mirror inside his beat-up rental van showed a man no one would recognize, especially not the warehouse team in Kearney, New Jersey. He hadn't set foot in this location since it opened 3 years ago. Back then, he'd shaken hands, cut the ribbon, and handed it off to district leadership. Since then, he'd built 5 more warehouses across the state, each feeding off the model of efficiency and culture he poured his soul into. But lately, something had started to crack. It was a warehouse associate named Gina Valdez, a single mom, and one of the longest-serving employees in the company who unknowingly lit the fuse. Her sudden transfer request had landed on Wesley's desk. No complaint attached, just a quiet, personal reasons scribbled on the form. That alone wouldn't normally raise alarms until Wesley noticed she wasn't the first. 3 other transfers had come from this same location in the last 2 months. All long-term staff, all silent. He didn't trust second-hand reports anymore. Too many yes men, too much filtering. He needed to see it for himself. Now here he was, standing in the morning chill, going by Wayne, a new temp loader starting today. The warehouse manager, Clint, didn't recognize him when he walked in. None of them did. Wesley made sure of that. His disguise was solid graying beard, thick glasses, a slight limp he practiced all week. Besides, most of the employees here had never met the CEO in person. In a fast-growing company, that wasn't unusual. "All right, Wayne," Clint barked, flipping through a clipboard without looking up. "You're on inbound. Work with Gina. She'll show you the ropes, Gina." Wesley nodded, pretending not to know her name. She greeted him with a polite smile. "You ever work a dock before?" "Once or twice," he said. "You," she laughed quietly. "Feels like forever." They spent the first few hours unloading freight from trailers, sorting inventory, and scanning pallets. Gina was quick, efficient, and kind even when others weren't. Wesley noticed how she helped a younger guy named Malik with his strap tension, even as Clint mocked him from a distance. "Gotta be faster if you want to keep up," Clint shouted. Malik flinched. Gina didn't. She just whispered, "Ignore him, he's all bark." Wesley kept his eyes open. By lunchtime, he'd already seen 3 things that didn't sit right: Clint barking orders without lifting a finger, a lead named Tanya pressuring a sick worker to skip break, and a general air of fear that hung over the floor like fog. But it was after hours, when most of the day shift had filed out, that the real crack showed. Wesley was cleaning up the loading bay when he heard voices behind the glass window of the manager's office. The blinds were half closed, but enough light spilled through for him to see Clint and Tanya inside. They were huddled over something. Curious, Wesley stepped closer, hidden by the shadows near a stack of crates. "You need to take 2 off this one," Tanya said, pointing at a screen. "He clocked out late, but I already told him we don't pay past 5 unless it's pre-approved," Clint grunted. "He's gonna whine. That's like 3 hours this week." "Doesn't matter. No, we keep it under. District's not asking questions, so neither should he." "Fine." "Do hers too," Clint muttered. "She's already at 39. I'm not paying time and a half cause she's slow." Wesley froze. His chest tightened. They were talking about overtime manipulation, stealing hours, not just once but routinely. Names were being tossed around like numbers on a spreadsheet. He stepped back, heart pounding. His breathing shallow. His mind raced. He'd built this company with his hands, slept on warehouse floors, sold his car to make payroll once. And now, this, he felt sick. "Hey, Wayne," Gina's voice broke his spiral. She came around the corner holding a clipboard. "Forgot to give you tomorrow's dock schedule," he nodded, trying to steady his voice. "Thanks." She looked at him a little closer this time. "You okay?" "Yeah," he said quickly. "Just tired." But inside, something had shifted, and he wasn't done yet. He needed to see more. He needed to know exactly how deep this went, and then he'd deal with it. By the second day, Wesley's back ached in places he hadn't felt in years. The repetitive lifting, the cold concrete, the relentless pace, it all wore on him faster than he expected. But he didn't complain. He couldn't. Not when the people around him had no choice but to endure it every day. He arrived just after dawn, same as the others. The break room was already half full, but dead silent. No music, no chatter. Just the mechanical clunk of microwaves and the occasional scrape of a spoon against a plastic lid. A heavy-set man in a faded hoodie stood leaning against the vending machine, staring at the wall like it owed him something. Wesley quietly took a seat in the corner next to Malik, the young guy from the day before. Malik had earbuds in but pulled one out when Wesley sat down. "You back?" he asked. "Yeah, thought I'd give it one more go." Malik chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Most temps quit after a day." "You'll see why." Wesley leaned in slightly. "What do you mean?" Before Malik could answer, Tanya pushed through the door holding a stack of printed schedules. She dropped them on the table without a word and left. A few people shuffled over to check theirs, including Malik. "Aw, come on," he muttered. 6 days again." Wesley watched him for a beat. "You don't want the hours." "I wouldn't mind if they actually paid for all of them," Malik said under his breath, then stopped himself. "Forget it, doesn't matter." Wesley didn't push, he just filed it away. Another person shorted. A different name, same pattern on the dock. The day started hard. A trailer full of cleaning chemicals had arrived unscheduled and nobody had space for it. Clint ordered them to clear out a section of outbound to make room. No warning, no plan, just do it. Wesley worked beside Gina again. She didn't say much this time. Her movements were stiff, like someone running on autopilot. He noticed she was favoring her right shoulder, wincing slightly when she lifted heavier boxes. "You all right?" he asked, keeping his tone casual. She shifted the box onto the pallet before answering. "It's nothing, just a strain." He hesitated. "Should you be lifting with that?" She gave him a short look. "If I say something, they'll send me home. No hours, no pay." The sentence hung there as she turned to grab another box. Wesley didn't respond. He couldn't. Not yet. Later that afternoon, they were pulling shrink wrap in the back when an older man, maybe mid-50s, with a limp that looked permanent, struggled with a loaded cart near the ramp. His name tag read Lewis. He was clearly having trouble keeping the cart from tipping. Clint watched it unfold from 10 feet away, arms crossed, saying nothing. Wesley moved to help, but before he could reach him, the cart wobbled, then tipped sideways, spilling about 30 boxes of plastic containers across the floor. One cracked open, scattering lids everywhere. Lewis froze for a second, then bent down slowly, trying to gather the mess. Clint stepped forward, voice raised. "You kidding me, Lewis? That's outbound. You just cost me an hour." "I'm sorry," Lewis said quietly. "The wheels, I don't care about the wheels. You've been here long enough to know how to handle a cart." It caught on the ramp lip. "I couldn't save it. Clean it up and you're staying late. You fix what you break." Wesley clenched his jaw. He stepped forward and crouched to help Lewis without saying a word. Lewis gave him a grateful glance. Clint didn't offer to help. He just turned and walked off. That night, Wesley stayed after the shift ended. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to see how the night team operated. Different crew, different rhythm. The floor supervisor, a woman named Cameron, ran a tighter ship, but even she looked worn thin. She double-checked inventory herself, retrained 2 new hires on the spot, and still found time to help someone with a busted scanner. She didn't bark orders, she gave directions clearly and checked in after. When she noticed Wesley watching her scan a misfiled pallet, she gave him a quick nod. "You knew?" "Yeah, just started." "You on Clint's crew?" "Yeah." She didn't say anything for a few seconds. "Then, watch your hours." Wesley tilted his head slightly. "What do you mean?" She tapped her scanner, not looking up. "Just keep track of them, trust me." That was the 3rd person in 2 days who'd implied something was wrong, but nobody dared say it outright. Fear didn't have to shout to be heard. It just had to linger long enough. Wesley left the warehouse close to midnight. He sat in his van for a long time, staring at the dashboard. Exhaustion wrapped around his shoulders like a wet coat, but it wasn't the work that drained him, it was what he was learning. When he returned the next morning, a storm had rolled in. Rain pelted the roof of the warehouse, and the loading dock flooded near the east ramp. Clint didn't bother rerouting the trucks. Instead, he ordered everyone to deal with it. Wesley watched as Gina stepped into ankle-deep water to guide a pallet jack out of a trailer. Her injured shoulder shook as she pulled it backward, soaked to the knees. He stepped in to help, but Clint barked across the dock. "Hey, she's got it, Wayne. Stick to your lane." Wesley didn't move. He looked at Gina, who shook her head subtly. He stepped back, but he was done observing. At lunch, he waited until Clint stepped outside to smoke, then followed him around the side of the building, where the wind made the rain feel like needles. Clint turned, annoyed. "You lost or something?" "I got a question," Wesley said evenly. "Why are you docking people's hours?" Clint raised an eyebrow. "What? You heard me." Clint folded his arms. "You don't get to ask that." "I've been here 3 days. I've seen people work extra, stay late, and still get told they're short." "You think nobody notices?" Clint's tone shifted into a low threat. "You want to keep working here, I'd stop worrying about other people's time cards." Wesley stepped closer. "And if I don't, you won't last, just like the rest." Wesley held his gaze for a long beat, then turned and walked back inside. He didn't say another word for the rest of the shift, but he knew what he'd do next. He'd seen enough. Tomorrow, he'd come back as himself. Wesley arrived just after 6 the next morning, not in a hoodie or fake beard, but in a tailored overcoat and polished leather shoes. The rain had eased, leaving behind slick pavement and a biting wind. He parked in the visitor's lot, not the back gravel area where the temps were told to leave their cars. For the first time since stepping into this warehouse, he walked through the front entrance. The receptionist blinked when she saw him. "Mr. Elridge," he nodded. "I need to speak with the entire day shift staff, all of them. Now." She stood quickly, reaching for the phone. "Should I call Clint?" "Not yet. Call Cameron instead. Tell her to bring every floor employee to break room 1 in 15 minutes. No exceptions." He walked past her, through the hallway lined with dusty plaques and faded safety posters. His own face was on one of them, from the ribbon-cutting ceremony years ago. He barely recognized it. 15 minutes later, the break room was packed. Workers stood shoulder to shoulder, still in vests and gloves, most of them silent. Some looked confused, others wary. A few recognized him instantly. Gina stood near the back, arms crossed tightly, her eyes locked on his. Wesley stepped forward and looked at every person in the room. "My name is Wesley Elridge," he said, his voice cutting through the low murmur. "I own this company. Some of you know that, some of you don't, but all of you deserve to know who's been standing next to you for the past 3 days. He let the words sink in. A few heads turned. Malik's mouth opened slightly, then closed again. "I came here pretending to be a temp because I stopped trusting the reports I was getting, and I was right not to." He paused. "I saw people being pushed past their limits. I saw hours shaved off time cards. I saw injuries ignored and people punished for trying to get help. I saw leadership fail you." Now the room was completely still. "I'm not here to make a speech. I'm here to fix what should never have been broken." He turned toward the door. "Cameron," he called out. She stepped in, clipboard in hand. "You're in charge of this facility effective immediately. You'll report directly to me for the next 30 days. After that, we'll reevaluate." Cameron didn't flinch. "Understood. Where's Clint?" "He's in his office." Wesley nodded once and walked out. The silence behind him was heavy, but it followed him down the hall like a shadow. Clint didn't stand when Wesley entered. He was mid-call and turned slightly, still holding the receiver. "Hold on a sec," he said into the phone. "Some guy just walked in." Wesley shut the door behind him. Clint glanced up, confused for a full second, then his face shifted. "Oh, you're him." Wesley didn't sit. "Pack your things, you're done here." Clint straightened in his chair. "Excuse me, you heard me. You're being terminated for falsifying payroll records, violating labor policy, and creating a hostile work environment. A formal investigation will follow, but for now, you're done." Clint stood slowly, his face tight. You think you can just walk in here, and you didn't think I'd walk in at all. That's the problem. Wesley pulled a folded sheet from his coat pocket and placed it on the desk. That's a copy of the hours you altered. You were sloppy. You approved time cards that had manual edits with no explanation, no supervisor override, and no employee signature. We logged all of it. Clint didn't speak. Wesley stepped closer, lowering his voice. You docked hours from people who needed every one of them just to survive. You stood by while someone got hurt and told them to work through it. You humiliated a man twice your age in front of the entire dock. You don't belong in a leadership position. Clint's jaw worked, but nothing came out. Security's on the way, Wesley said. You can leave now or wait for them. Clint grabbed his coat and stormed out without another word. Wesley stayed where he was until the door clicked shut behind him. By afternoon, the warehouse felt different. Not lighter, just quieter, like the first breath after a long underwater silence. Wesley moved through the building without fanfare, stopping at each department. He found Gina in aisle 12, restocking a shelf of returned items. She turned when she heard his footsteps, but didn't speak. I owe you an apology, he said. You've carried more than your share of this place. And you were right to want out. She leaned against the shelf, arms still folded. I didn't think you'd actually show up. I almost didn't, but I'm glad I did. She looked away for a moment. It's not just Clint. Tanya was worse. She knew everything, covered for him. Pressured people to keep quiet, even made fun of Malik for tracking his hours, said it made him look weak. Wesley nodded once. She's gone too. Effective immediately, Gina blinked. Really? I don't keep people who punish others for doing the right thing. She exhaled slow, like she'd been holding it in for months. We're short 3 supervisors now, she said quietly. I know. We'll bring in floaters from other locations, and I'll be here for the next 2 weeks. Cameron's building a new team, with input from you and the others. Gina looked at him fully for the first time. You serious? I don't make promises I can't keep. He moved on, but not before adding, take care of that shoulder. And if you need time off, it's paid. She didn't respond, but the way she turned back to the shelf slower, more deliberate, was answer enough. In the break room, Wesley found Malik alone, eating from a crumpled paper bag. Mind if I sit? Malik shrugged. Sure. Wesley sat across from him. I owe you some clarity, he said. You were one of the first people who clued me in. You didn't know it, but you did. Malik gave a short laugh. I thought you were just some older guy trying to make rent. I used to be. Malik raised an eyebrow. I unloaded trucks in high school. Stocked shelves in college. Started this business with nothing but a leased van and 20 cases of detergent. I didn't build this company from a desk. Malik looked down at the table. You think it can actually change? I know it can, but not without the right people. That's why I'm offering you a position on Cameron's new training team. You've got good instincts and the guts to speak up. We need more of that. Malik's eyes widened. I've only been here 6 months, and you've already shown more integrity than people paid to lead you. That counts. What about the hours I lost? I've already authorized retroactive pay for every employee affected by the edits. You'll get a check by Friday, and your full record will reflect the actual hours worked. Malik didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, thanks. Wesley stood. Don't thank me, just keep doing what's right. By the end of the day, 2 HR reps arrived to conduct interviews with every full-time employee. Wesley made sure they had a private space and clear instructions. Listen, don't interrupt, and document everything. Meanwhile, Cameron began reassigning shift leads and creating a new rotation system to prevent burnout. Nobody was forced to work beyond their posted hours. Every worker was given the option to log out early if they'd passed 8 hours. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even comfortable, but it was real. As the sun dipped behind the skyline and floodlights blinked on over the lot, Wesley stood outside the main dock doors, watching the night crew file in. Some looked nervous. Others nodded cautiously. He stayed until every last one had clocked in. Then he turned, pulled out his phone, and called his assistant. Block my schedule for next week, he said. I'm staying here. You want a hotel? No, I'll sleep in the office. I've done it before. He hung up, took a deep breath, and walked back inside. The next 7 days moved with careful urgency. Wesley didn't leave the premises once. He slept on the old leather couch in the site manager's office, Clint's former domain, now stripped of personal items and cleared of the thick arrogance that used to sit in the air like dust. A whiteboard once used to chart quotas now held a rotating task list of action items, each one initialed by Wesley or Cameron, each one tied to a name and a deadline. By midweek, support staff from 2 other locations arrived to temporarily fill supervisory gaps. They rotated in staggered shifts, allowing for continuous coverage without burning anyone out. Cameron coordinated the schedule down to the minute, and Wesley quietly observed how she adjusted on the fly when 2 team leads called out sick on Thursday. She didn't panic. She talked through it with the floor team and rebalanced assignments in under 10 minutes. No one complained. Wesley spent most of his time walking the floor, not just observing, engaging. He asked questions he'd never thought to ask before. How long does this lift usually take? Is this scanner glitch common? Have we had any injuries on this section in the last 6 months? He didn't delegate the questions. He asked them himself. He logged the answers in a notebook, not an app. Handwritten, because writing slowed him down just enough to listen better. On Friday, he pulled Gina aside during her mid-shift rotation. She looked more rested, but the protective edge in her posture hadn't faded. "I need your help with something," Wesley said. She didn't answer right away. He gestured to a rolling cart stacked with safety vests. "We're redesigning the floor orientation. I want every new hire to understand not just the rules, but the actual values behind them. I want you to help write the new program." "I'm not a trainer," she said. "No. You're someone who knows what people deal with when no one's looking. That's more valuable." She looked at the cart, then back to him. "Will they actually listen?" "They'll listen because the message won't come from someone like me standing behind a podium. It'll come from you standing right next to them." She didn't commit, but she didn't walk away either. That night, Wesley sat down with the HR audit team in the upstairs conference room. Files were stacked across the table: payroll records, time logs, exit interviews, and anonymous complaints dating back 18 months. A younger HR rep named Nicole leaned forward, flipping to the latest report. "We've confirmed altered entries in 36 employee time cards over the last quarter," she said. "All from this warehouse. Most of it happened under Tanya's login credentials. Clint approved the final edits." Wesley scanned the chart. "How many have been compensated?" 23 so far. "The rest will be processed by Monday. Retroactive pay plus adjustment for lost overtime," he nodded. "And the complaints," Nicole hesitated. "There's a pattern. People reported being discouraged from reporting injuries. Some were told they'd be sent home without pay if they brought it up more than once. One guy, Lewis, filed a written complaint about equipment issues. It was never followed up." Wesley closed the folder. "We'll fix the pay." "But we're not done." He spent the weekend drafting a new accountability framework, not a mission statement, not a press release, a practical blueprint. It included anonymous reporting channels routed through third-party compliance, mandatory quarterly audits on timekeeping, and a rotating review panel made up of warehouse staff, not just management. Every location would adopt it. No exceptions. On Monday, he called a full-floor meeting again. The break room was too small now, so they cleared Section B of the inbound dock, laid down anti-slip mats, and brought in portable heaters. Everyone was their night crew, day shift floaters, even Cameron, who stood near the back with her arms folded, watching carefully. Wesley stepped onto a makeshift platform, a wooden pallet flipped upside down, and looked out across the crowd. "I'm not going to pretend the last 2 weeks were enough to fix everything," he said. "They weren't. But I want to show you what changes are staying and why." He turned to a corkboard set up behind him. On it were 4 large sheets, each one handwritten. "First, every hour you work will be tracked by 2 systems. One digital, one manual. If they don't match, you'll know before payroll closes. Not after, he pointed to the second sheet. Second, injury reporting is no longer optional. If you're hurt, you report it, and your shift lead will walk the report directly to HR, not file it later. No more delays, no more pressure to tough it out. The third sheet had a list of names. Third, these employees are joining a peer review panel. They'll rotate each quarter. Their job is to audit practices, flag abuse, and recommend changes. And yes, Gina is one of them. There was a ripple of reaction, some surprised, some approving. And last, he said, turning to the final sheet, starting this month, every warehouse manager in this company will spend one full shift each quarter working the floor. No clipboard, no office, just a vest and boots like everyone else. He folded his arms. I didn't build this company to become the kind of place people whisper about. I built it because I believed in what honest work could do for a person. Somewhere along the way, we lost that, but we're getting it back. And it starts with holding people accountable, including me. When the meeting ended, people didn't rush out. They lingered, talked, not in hushed tones but openly. A few clapped him on the shoulder. One man, a forklift operator named Reggie, nodded and said, "Took guts to come down here." "Glad you did." Wesley didn't offer a speech in return. He just nodded, moved out of the way, and let them talk among themselves. That evening, he found Malik in the inventory trailer, scanning inbound manifests. "You still up for that training role?" Wesley asked. Malik didn't look up right away. "You really mean it? You want me teaching people?" "I want you showing them how to ask questions, even the hard ones." Malik set the scanner down. "Then yeah, I'm in." Wesley extended his hand. Malik shook it. By the end of the week, the energy inside the warehouse had changed, not because things got easier. The workload stayed the same. The deadlines didn't vanish, but the silence was gone. The tension that used to hang in the air with every shift start had been replaced by something tentative but real: trust. Wesley didn't return to headquarters right away. He stayed until the next full payroll cycle closed. He reviewed the logs himself. Not because he didn't trust the systems, but because he knew systems didn't build culture. People did. On his last night in the warehouse, he stood in the east ramp corridor, watching as the janitorial crew swept up before lockup. The same corridor where water once pooled and no one spoke up. Now it was dry, clean, and quiet for the right reasons. He turned off the light and walked out slowly, not as a CEO, not undercover, just a man who'd been reminded why he started all of this in the first place.